Hey guys, all right, this is a huge week. This is the week we're publishing this site. I will be honest, I did not get a whole lot of sleep this week. I've just been super excited and pumped up about all this, so let's just get going. Okay, so here is the finished version of the first landing page of the site. You saw most of this last week, so I'm not going to dive into that too much at this point, but I do want to show you the gate. So I've updated the gate. We started off with this round one testing underway, a way to collect email addresses. So I'm going to submit that here, and it's going to take us to just a thank you page, and then they're going to be presented with the option to take a survey. Kind of notice that when I click that submit button, there was a loading spinner. This having a little bit of functionality in the landing page is actually great because it's giving us a chance to work through those user experience nice touch points like the loading and what happens if the form errors out, deal with all that stuff on a simplified set of functionality so that later when we have more complicated functionality, we've already kind of worked out those kinks. They get this notification. We basically ask for a very specific amount of time for them, and hopefully they'll say yes to this. They have this nice little survey that they can submit with me. I have an option to keep the answers anonymous if they don't want us to know who they are, because all I really want is the survey data. It'd be great to know who they are so I can contact them. I want to know what the role of their company is, because I want to know who's interested in the product, because if it's going to be higher ups, or is it going to be somebody, an executive assistant, all this is really important information for helping us figure out our customer base. Okay, how many people are in the company? And then which teams might test our product? Let's just enter a few of these here. And just to show you what the validation of the field stuff looks like, we've got that all hooked up here so that they can't submit without something valid. And we submit the survey, and it says you're on the list. And now they have a chance to share this on social media, copy the link. And then lastly, I really wanted to get an interview with them if possible. If somebody's feeling really generous, I would love them to have a chance to do that. So I set up a Calendly link that people can book time with me. And it's just 15 minutes. I try to give different time blocks to accommodate different schedules, and then they can always submit another email address so they can just keep going. Okay, so the first thing I had to do to get this set up was set up MailChimp. So I created an account on MailChimp. In the audience section, I did a couple things. So under manage contacts and groups, I created an opt-ins group that has beta testers as one of the groups that you can be a part of. And basically this means that when somebody signs up in this kind of testing form, I'm assigning them to that group, because later we're going to have subscribers coming from different places. Everybody who's signing up today is going to be classified as a beta tester. Okay, so once I had that in place, I went over to my account and then went to extras and got my API key. And then using that, I went to their API documentation, figured out how to subscribe people to the list and add them to the interest groups. And that's how we got this first form submission going. And then in Airtable, I created my new base for my product, new teammate. And then I created a new table called customer survey. And I was really careful here to name this as if I was going to create a real database, because if this thing does take off, I can't live on Airtable forever. I'm going to have to move to a new database. So I want these field names to be, production ready. So I used underscores and lowercase letters for that. So I created my survey here, basically just added fields like email, first name, last name, role at company, and then there's a list of options here that has to match what I put on the front end. The teams that would be interested, and I created an update date so I can see that in my data. Then if you go to airtable.com/API, they'll give you a very specific documentation for your exact tables, which is really useful. So this is how I implemented saving the survey data to Airtable. So to do the survey again, if somebody does give us their name, I'm using that opportunity to update the MailChimp record with their first name, last name. So originally I wanted to ask the first name, last name along with the email address, because I really want to get personalized subscribers so that I can send better emails. But people also, when they're just trying to, show interest in an app, they might not want to give you your first name, last name. It might just be too much information to get. So I put it on the survey, and I can update that record if they do submit it to us. And then one thing I really wanted to have in place right from the get-go, get it figured out before we even have the landing page out, is Google Tag Manager and Google Analytics. So I really want to be able to track what people are doing, in a limited sense at least, to figure out what's working, what's not working. So Google Tag Manager is great. They give you a small script to put in your site, just like you would with a regular Google Analytics script or any other kind of marketing script. You can basically inject any other tool that you need. So if you need Google Analytics, you can add it to the page dynamically. You don't have to go edit the code. If later on we want to do A/B testing or use some other marketing tool, we can actually inject it through Google Tag Manager. So it's great. So there's basically two things. There's tags and there's triggers. A tag is like Google Analytics. It's like putting something on the page. I don't want to do that in my development environment. I don't really want to be tracking all my test stuff. So in the trigger section, instead of all pages, I created my own trigger called page views production, where the page host name does not equal local host. There's a couple things I want to track. I want to track certain types of clicks when certain elements become visible. So if I'm over here, let's go to the home page. I want to know if this button was clicked. If somebody gets to step 2 of my try it process or step 3, that's really valuable information to know that they've made it through that space. Unsupported feature. So if for some reason their camera doesn't work and they get a browser notification, something that says we don't support this, I want to know how many people are dealing with that. I want to know whenever there's a JavaScript error. I want to know when somebody submits a form. And I have something called a snack bar notification, and that's where I show a message to the user. And if that's an error notification, I want to know that too, so we can get basically back-end errors. We can get analytics on who's seeing errors in the front end. So you can blindly turn on all clicks and all form submissions and just track all this stuff. I have found that gets you too much data and you can't actually make use of it. I want to be pinpointed, and I also want to annotate all these clicks with a little more information so I know what I'm looking at. For instance, it matters if the user clicks this call to action button or this call to action button up here in the header. So one great way I've learned how to do this is create basically element attributes on the HTML itself, and the data tracked element attribute, that is going to signify what element did they click. So the start for free button in the hero section. And then there's also a group element, data tracked group, so I can group clicks together. So things that come from the gate page, if they're over here, I want to group those clicks together. Basically what we end up with is whenever I have a link, like let's just take a look at this, the logo link in the top header. The link goes to the home page, and this is my group. So the tracked group will be named header, and the tracked element is logo. So when I'm in Google Analytics, I'll be able to see that the logo was clicked in the header. So this is complicated. There's a lot of different pieces to it, but it's super critical information. So I want to show you what that looks like when I'm testing it out. They have this great preview option where you can basically see what tags get fired. And so this is my local host, my development environment. And now anything I do here, it's going to show up on this side. So if I click on start for free, if I click on this session, that there was a log events tag fired. See, the click is here, and the element is sign up, and the group is hero. And so there we go. And when I first did this, these weren't showing up properly, and that's what I had to kind of debug and triage a little bit. So anyway, it's a really great tool to kind of debug your analytics, because that's super important. It's easy to get this wrong. And back in Google Analytics, you actually need to go to the configuration for custom definitions and set up these dimensions based on the tags that you created. You need to basically import all those values that we did. Okay, so then once I got the site all working and functional the way I wanted it to, it's time to set up the deployment. I'm in Amazon Web Services right now, and I'm going to do something very simple and super cost effective. I'm going to put the site, the front end site, on S3. S3 is basically just a storage mechanism, and you create these things called buckets. And there's a kind of a secret to it where if you create it with your domain name, so newteammate.com, if you name that your bucket name and then you enable the website ability, static website hosting, you can actually host that site. A couple more steps. Go into CloudFront, create a distribution that's based off of that website. So the static website here, use that as our origin. So basically, CloudFront is a way to really speed up delivery of files. So CloudFront's going to use this bucket website hosting as its origin and then deliver the content to users much quicker. You set up a CloudFront distribution based on that static website in S3. This is like pennies, fractions of pennies, and this is about the same. And then in Route 53, which is where the DNS lives, go into newteammate.com and set up an A record and a AAAA record for that basically links you to the CloudFront distribution. Handful of steps to get that right. And in the process of doing that, CloudFront has an SSL certificate. I was able to create one within Amazon for free. And when I did that, I basically set it up as newteammate.com as well as star.newteammate.com, so any subdomain can be valid by this certificate too. So that's how I got my certificate. That's how I got all the website hosting basically for free. And I did a couple other quick things. I did a bucket for the misspelling for www.newteammate.com. That's going to be a redirection. So in CloudFront, I needed to set up a distribution for that and a distribution for the misspelling. And then once the domain was set up, it was time to set up the email. I had told you guys in an earlier video that I was going to go with Amazon Workmail because it was much cheaper than Google, but turns out I read the thing wrong or something, because there's actually a $6 a month plan on Google. After using Workmail on another domain before, I'm going to stick with Google. It's just so much easier to use. So I signed up for that, and then in that process, in Route 53, you got to set up the MX record for Google, and Google walks you through that process really nicely, so that was easy. In my Gmail account for my new domain, I forwarded all my mail to my personal email address, and that way I only have to check one inbox. All my mail comes into my personal inbox, and you can actually do a send as in your personal email and set up the ability to send as your business mail as well. The last thing needed to do was the back end. So I've got Replit running here. So I went ahead and bought the hacker plan on this, and I turned on always on for this guy. I had to do basically I've got GitHub running my code or holding my code, and then in Replit, I created a new project and linked it to my GitHub project. If I ever want to just redeploy this, I can hit stop and then run, and it will take all the, it'll just rerun the project. Okay, and then in GitHub, I created this workflow. Basically, what I want to do is every time I submit my changes to push them to GitHub, I want them to deploy the whole site. They have these workflow actions you can set up, and it's a little bit complicated. Took me a lot of trial and error to get to this point. But basically what I've done is after the build runs, I use Amazon Web Services to basically sync the files that I've created with the S3 bucket that I had up here. And so what that turns out to be in practice is you get this Actions tab, and anytime you push something here, it'll actually upload the data and then send me an email that things work. And the other thing that took me kind of a lot of time this week was the camera debugging and trying to get that work on different devices. It's actually pretty challenging. And for a general basic landing page, you wouldn't have had to do any of this. We probably would have launched it last week. But I just think it's critical to the story. It tells it in a really interactive way. I went through some of this work back and forth to figure out edge cases on recording these videos. When I did that with my phone and with my iPad, I ran into some issues. So I want to show you what I did to figure those out. I have a Google phone, so I plugged my phone into my Mac here, and in Chrome, I have gone to Brave Inspect Devices, and here in it shows the browsers that are connected. I've turned on port forwarding, so my local host that I'm debugging on is going to be able to be accessible from my phone. I can actually pull up the inspector for my phone and see my phone in real time. So I've got my phone here, and I can actually see it and scroll through it here. So I was able to debug a lot of the things that were happening. So for instance, I use Brave as my browser, and for that, whenever you turn the camera on, it doesn't show it right away. It actually just stays blank because it requires a user click, and I had to figure that out. So I had to put this button show video on there to see the video actually show up. So that was one of the big things that I had to do to figure out some of these edge cases. So then once I had everything finished, it was time to show it to the first person. I showed it to my wife, and just watching anybody use a tool I built, I just immediately see the problems and the things that need to be adjusted. And she pointed out some really good things. First of all, my sample script was a little weak, so I fleshed it out a little bit to be really explicit about, how these videos should work. And then also, I created a sample video because it immediately was clear when she was using it that it would be nice to see somebody go through this. So, hi, I'm Colin, and I'm there's a video I created myself, and I created one for the hello part and the intro part, the 2 steps. The other thing that really helped with was at the end of this process, let me run through it real quick. When they hit stop on this and we give them this preview, I thought, wouldn't it be nice to actually see this with the videos I created as samples so that somebody can see what this is really going to look like. Hi, Wendy, it's nice to meet you. And then, hi, my name's Colin. And then it's going to play my sample videos. Wendy, it's really nice to have you join our team. Hi, I'm Colin, and I'm one of the product designers here. main part of my job. So then they can actually see what this is going to look like with multiple people. It's kind of weird with me and me, but normally that would be better. These videos are not great, so I'm going to need some help. I would love to figure out a way to get some people to create some videos for me. So that's something I'm thinking about how to do, maybe something on Twitter or something like that. Maybe I can create a way to, maybe you can save these files, you can save as, so maybe we can have people use the homepage to actually record the videos and then create a Google form maybe that I can use to have people submit the files. Okay, so check this out. I got a little bit scope crazy on this one, but so when I went to make these sample videos, I uploaded these files and they were like 100 megs, something like that, and I just started thinking, oh man, right from the get-go, we're gonna have a problem with people watching these videos because this is not optimized for streaming. Definite scope creep here, but I went out to Amazon to figure out how to do video on demand and how that solution should work. It's gonna be a nice investment because later on we'll be able to make use of this, but here's what I found. There's a great solution out here they have for you. They've built all this in CloudFormation that you can actually run yourself. I think this is the one I ran right here. You basically click launch in AWS console. I'll show the implementation guide real quick, but it creates all these resources for processing video, creating video assets that work for different bandwidth speeds, and making sure the video is coming in as a streaming, so you don't have to download the whole video at once. So it's really powerful, and luckily this was just a couple clicks to figure this out. Now I have video that can be streamed properly. I'll make a ton of use of that as the product gets going. Okay guys, and now I'm really excited because this is my temporary logo, this new teammate logo. I just needed something to get out there, but my go-to designer guy, he's an amazing designer. I reached out to him to do a logo for me on this one. We kind of have a history that goes back, so we always kind of work with each other a little bit. He made this amazing logo for me. Check this out. It's so crisp and clean. He just nailed the sentiment of it. I told him, I wanted this to be a friendly, playful type of app that, and it's all about smiles. It's all about being friendly. It's all about saying hi to somebody. He's got this nice like chat, just very delicate kind of chat implication on this. So loving this mark, and I'm super excited to put it into use. So just to show you guys who he is, this is his website, tylerhill.me. Just an amazing designer, so check him out if you need something. So I'm going to take what he sent me, and I'm going to use the favicon.io website here to basically generate a whole bunch of assets for my site, like the different sizes of icons. So let's do that real quick. Okay, hit download. So check out what they give you here. They give you just different sizes of the icon. They give you the favicon.ico. They give you this web manifest, and they show you how to insert this into your site. So you can just copy this and paste it in. Okay, one other thing that I did was on each page, I'm creating a social card for social media sharing. So it's basically just a summary that shows up in Twitter, Facebook, and all that stuff. So I've created these, and then I use Twitter's card validator to test this out. So basically newteammate.com, and I hit this enter here, and we make sure that it looks right, and it looks great. So you guys, that's it. The site is live. Go to newteammate.com, check it out. Let me know what you think. If you have any interest in recording a video like I did as a sample, I would love that. So get in touch with me on that. I'll try to create some instructions as I figure out the best way to do that going forward. Let me know in the comments, subscribe, like, all that stuff, and I'll see you guys next time.